Hey, hi, hello. Welcome to Diana Emerson. Today we're listening to Bride to Be Murder Mystery.
A bride-to-be murdered a week before her wedding. Somebody wanted her dead.
Who did it? Who the hell did it?
If you had any suspicions, would you tell us? Yeah, because if y'all find out I knew,
Can detectives get a confession, or will a cold-blooded killer go free?
don't lie for him. If you, I'm not lying for it.
We just needed really that one person to finally break.
Investigators searching for answers in the interrogation room.
This is probably the most important moment of your life.
Every suspect accused of a crime has the right to remain silent. Many agree to be interrogated anyway, but they can stop the interview at any moment, making it a race against time. Justice hangs in the balance.
Yeah, I didn't have it. I just went off and I into the kitchen and I saw she lay on the kitchen floor. The man that should have had it.
Okay. She's not moving? Okay. What is your name?
My name is Brian.
Hold on, just a minute. Let me get an phone, okay?
When we arrived on scene, the fire department advised on the radio that they had gone in and backed out because they had found a bullet casing next to the body. Stay on me, Drew. Clear. Clear. Yeah, go in the kitchen. Go down this hall. We got one down, shell facing on the floor. Her stand right there next to her. I'm wondering if she just got here.
She was shot one time in the eyebrow, and she died right there.
Now to our other breaking news in Rowlett, where police are trying to figure out what led to a woman's death inside her home.
Right now, police only calling it a death investigation and could not go into many details surrounding the nature of the death or who it is.
As we were in the process of obtaining a search warrant, we were able to determine that it was Laura Grillo that was deceased on the floor in the kitchen. Laura Grillo was 37 years old. She was very active in her community.
She was like this ray of sunshine. She wanted to just make the world a better place. She was going to get married in a week. Laura and John were together about 7 years total.
Together, they have one child, 4 years old, and Laura has two older children from previous relationships. And they live together with Laura Grillo's brother, Brian.
John had asked Laura to marry him on more than one occasion. She finally said yes. She really was excited about the wedding, and she asked me to be the maid of honor. We were having a good time singing. We went and picked out dresses together. Laura's youngest daughter was with us during a lot of this planning. You know, it was really sweet. She was so in love with her. I'm really sad. We were supposed to grow old together, you know, and be best friends.
Laura were both volunteers with the police department in a program called VIPS, which is Volunteers in Public Safety. John engaged in a conversation with me. He's from Greece, so he spoke with a heavy accent. He had asked if Laura was in the house.
Listen to me. It looks like a gunshot one. That is all I can tell you. Do you have cameras on the house? Yes. Do they record?
They used to. I don't know if they do.
Okay.
As we were searching the master bedroom, we observed some drawers flipped over, and the safe was actually open, where it looked like possibly a burglary had occurred.
But there were things inside the scene that just didn't look right. We did not find any forced entry to the residence at all, and the rest of the home appeared to be untouched. This did not appear to us to be a random attack. Somebody wanted her dead.
New information from Rowlett, where neighbors are in disbelief.
We just got an update from Rowlett Police about 30 minutes ago, and they tell us the death investigation that's happening just behind us here inside this home is now considered a homicide.
With no signs of a forced entry, investigators say on Friday morning either someone followed Laura into her home or was already inside when she returned home from taking her children to school.
Laura Grillo's brother Brian told us that he was asleep at the house. He got up about noon and he found the female body face down in the kitchen. A lot of blood. He exited the house and called 911.
That was a concern for us initially, that a gunshot that goes off inside a house is typically pretty loud. But he told us that he's hearing impaired.
And we were able to confirm, so Brian was eliminated as a suspect. We didn't find any motive. There was nothing but love between Laura and Brian.
I had the children. They were staying the night with me. They couldn't go back home, of course. And then that's when John is at the police station being questioned.
Basically, the goal was to confirm John's whereabouts on the morning of the murder.
What's on phone with the police officers and detectives at the scene? I'm sorry for your loss. I want you to know that we're going to find out what happened.
When we started the interview, he cried quietly for about 60 seconds.
What would be the motive for someone to come in the house, attack Laura? No idea. Somebody chose to come in that house. But why? That's what we're going to find out. Did Laura receive any bad news? Really? No denials. Okay, everything was good. I understand y'all know a week from now. Yes, we're going to look in a week. She was a lot happier because of the love. She was really expected.
John answered my questions that he didn't owe anybody no money. Nobody was threatening family. They were pending a wedding, and he seemed to be excited. He was able to start a detailed written statement. John said that he had left early in the morning and went to a home improvement store in North Dallas, and that he had met up with two workers in his construction business. A lot of times in my past, when I've investigated something, a tragic event, people are not physically able to actually start writing down. We have to give them some time, a day or two to collect themselves. So that struck me a little bit odd. But my first interview with John, he didn't stand out to be a suspect.
The very next day, John showed up at the police department unannounced, wanting to speak with me.
Everybody's asking me what's my answer is I don't know. I still don't know. I need you guys to give answers. I need answers. Okay? I need to know what is going on. What is your speculations? What?
He wanted to be in charge of what was going on and kind of control what information was going to be released to the public. And we just let John get as much information from him as we possibly could.
I need to know answer what I can and what I can tell you at this point. My biggest concern right now is the kids. How am I going to talk about that? My plan was to bring the kids to the house. After you get it all cleaned up? Yes, of course.
He doesn't really seem to be too upset about the fact that his fiance that he was supposed to marry in a week is dead. He's more concerned about wanting to clean everything up and move on with his life.
And he's not talking about any security measures that he's going to implement after he's returning to the murder scene with not only his own life, but also the kids.
Now to a developing story. Investigators say the death of a 37-year-old Rowlett mother appears to be a homicide. Lori Grillo was shot and killed inside her own home Friday morning, shortly after returning from dropping her children off at school.
She was supposed to be getting ready for her wedding, scheduled 1 week from tonight. But instead, friends and family are planning her funeral.
She was a fantastic, loving mom, friend, sister. She had a rough childhood growing up, but she was trying to create this really fantastic life for her kids that she didn't have when she was a kid. It's a real nightmare not knowing what happened to someone when they're here one day and then they're just like murdered the next day. But Laura's fiance, John, was acting strange from the get-go. Just a few days after Laura was killed, John asked me, he's like, I have a feeling that the Rowlett Police Department is going to try to pin this on me and take the kids. I knew something was wrong.
We were able to gather video surveillance footage from a couple of home improvement stores that John told us he went to that morning in Dallas, which proved that he was actually there at the time that Laura was killed. So we knew that he wasn't responsible for this himself, but we couldn't say at that point that he didn't have some involvement in setting this up.
And we were able to confirm that a short time later, he had met up with 2 workers in his construction business.
Jesus worked with John, and they were best friends. He was going to be part of the wedding party.
Jesus was John's right-hand man, kind of his job foreman, John's go-to person.
James said that he only been working for the company for 3 weeks, so he had barely met John. My goal was to find out, are they a person of interest or a suspect?
And he texted me, don't be late, whatever. You know, 8 o'clock. Where we're gonna meet up at Home Depot. In Dallas. Just started moving doors. He pulled up and he and John showed up and everything. We started working and yeah.
Both Jesus and James were very upfront, very cooperative, very talkative. The stories matched.
They both said they were together the entire morning, and both James and Jesus denied being in Rowlett that morning, having any knowledge about what happened to Laura or who was responsible for it.
Let me ask you this. I'm going to ask you this. If you had any suspicions, or if you had any personal knowledge that John was responsible for Laura losing her life, would you tell us?
Yeah, because if y'all find out I knew, I mean, if that's what y'all, if he could have done it, I don't see it him doing it and he's an ass. I don't see it like that, right? You know, I mean, since it happened, just like y'all been doing, you know, is it the husband, is it the brother, is it, you know what I'm saying? I've been doing the same thing.
Exactly, you know, that's the same thing we do. And you kind of brought it up, you know, because you said, I don't think he did it. He's an ass.
He's an ass.
I'm an ass.
That's why we get along. Okay.
Jesus seemed a little too laid back, you know, just laughing and joking around in the interview room. Some of that stuff didn't really make sense when his boss's fiance, who he had also known for several years, was just killed. And felt like he was making a very good effort to deflect any attention from himself. We found some things that were suspicious to us. Rowlett is about 30 minutes east of Dallas. Jesus told us in his initial interview that he stayed in Dallas the entire morning Laura was killed, and his phone records showed otherwise.
What we found is about 8:26, he pinged a tower in Rowlett.
And the time that his phone hit a cell tower in Rowlett, about a mile from Laura's house, was right about the time that we believed that Laura was killed. That was a big problem for him. There was a lot more to this that he wasn't telling us. We needed to figure out exactly what did happen. A lot of the people that we talked to described John as a very controlling person. He didn't treat Laura very well in public.
He was mean. He yelled. He had a terrible temper. He was possessive. It was a little surprising when she accepted his proposal. There were actually several times when Laura was thinking about leaving John. The last time I spoke with Laura was the night before she was murdered. She said there was just a big fight that happened regarding the wedding dress. There was definitely turmoil.
We found out that John wanted out of the relationship with Laura, but he also was trying to maintain possession of his daughter. We know that James and Jesus were together that morning prior to them meeting up with John. We wanted to talk to James again to let James know that we knew Jesus was lying to us.
I've listened to the interviews of everybody that's involved with this case. And there's some things that just don't add up.
Somebody could be as much as they can.
I hope so too. And the first point I want to figure out is, you said this twice, that Manuel went to your house about 8:30, 8:45. But I've got information that puts Manuel somewhere else.
Just be honest.
That time frame. Not at your place.
He was at my place.
I have proof that he was not at your place.
That's what time he was at my place.
I'm telling you, I've analyzed everything. He was not there.
In any interview, We've got to get that person to understand that we do know more than what we're leading on. And we explained what the penalties are for, murdering. He could spend the rest of his life in prison. I think the thought of that scared him.
You know me for 15 years, and this is what I want. Sometimes our friends will put us in a difficult situation. Don't lie for him. If you, I'm not lying for him. Yeah, it's his business, dude. I'm not. If you know something, even if you suspect something, yeah.
I was trying to let him know, don't cover for him. It helps build rapport, and if you have rapport with somebody, it makes it more difficult for them to lie to you.
If we gave you a polygraph today, and I asked you, do you have knowledge, or did you participate in the taking of the life of Laura? Yes or no? What would you answer?
Knowledge.
What do you think?
No. Do you have knowledge of it?
No.
No one has mentioned it to you.
No. What do you think the test will show? I'm coming to tell you the truth.
Still, even as we confronted him with facts that we knew, he continued to deny, but I classified him as a weak denial. We knew that he knew something about the murder. He gave us consent to search. We did recover a usable amount of marijuana and a backpack that was underneath his bed.
What bag is this? This is the backpack on his.
I noticed a change in his demeanor when I pulled out the backpack. I opened it up. It had latex gloves in there. It had 2 brand new phones in there. It was a little bit odd for me.
So that gave us even more suspicion that now we're on to the right people.
Also happening right now, police are looking for a man who they say is a person of interest in the murder of a Rowlett mother.
Yeah, Rowlett police say this new person of interest, Jesus Emmanuel Pereira, lied about where he was the day that Laura Grillo was murdered here in her home, and he's now on the run.
He fled the area. We were not able to locate him, and we had some concern that James may do the same. We decided to go ahead and charge him with that marijuana. That's the reason why James ended up back in jail.
Brick was spoken to our jail, Texas Rangers.
The Texas Rangers are the state police here in Texas that are very helpful in assisting smaller agencies to investigate crimes of this nature.
Real Texas Ranger before on TV.
He's a real deal.
James seemed to be very intrigued by the Texas Rangers. He seemed to be impressed.
I'm not interested in games at this point. We're way too far into this, and this is not something that you want to get in the middle of by trying to cover for anybody.
I've been trying to go over it more and more in case y'all come and talk to me because I want to help out as much as I can.
James knew that it was a very serious situation, but we just we couldn't get James to tell us what he knew at that point.
They still haven't released the change. No, I mean, no, I have no news with me now.
They were clearly concerned about James being at the police department for so many hours and what he was telling us.
We needed to determine if there was anything that John was willing to provide us that would explain why he would be having a conversation with Jesus about what James was going to say. He was surprised to see us approach him at the home improvement parking lot. He seemed very nervous.
You got just a second? I wanted to show you something. We got something that came up in the case. Do I need my lawyer?
If he was not involved, that was an opportunity for him to say and explain that he was not involved in the murder of his fiancée. Listen to it. You said hopefully he didn't tell him how. What do you mean?
In other words, us, the police. Because we were interviewing James.
Okay.
And you said, I hope he doesn't tell them how. And Jesus said, I know, because I was with him. In other words, James was with me.
I don't remember, man. No, that's the recording right there. That's you talking to Jesus. Okay. That means you know how Laura was killed.
No, sir, I do not know how Laura was killed.
Okay, well, why would you say that?
I don't remember how and why I had this conversation with him.
He seemed very nervous, and he couldn't explain it. He could not explain the recorded conversation. Did you look at everything that we have found out during this investigation? And I'm just being honest with you, okay? It's pointing right back to you and Jesus and James.
I don't know, guys.
I know, but you see how it looks?
I really have no idea. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Actually, I don't think that I should be talking to you guys right now because my lawyer told me, if the police wants to talk to you, I need to be present.
You're free to go. We're not detaining you. We're not handcuffing you.
We
just ask some questions.
We were able to get in contact with a couple of his ex-girlfriends, a former roommate of his, and these people had direct knowledge about Jesus being hired by John to kill Laura. Two of these people gave us information that Jesus personally came to them and offered them money to drive him out to Rowlett so that he could commit this murder. Both of those people didn't want anything to do with his plan. So at this point in the investigation, our theory was that James was most likely the driver, and we felt that John paid Jesus to kill Laura.
Also, we were able to get a tip that Jesus was in Florida, and we provided that information to the United States Marshal Service.
All new at 10 o'clock, handcuffed in Florida. Take a good look at the photo. This is on a warrant out of Rowlett. U.S. Marshals arresting Jesus Trevino.
Jesus had been arrested, but we still did not have proof that John was an active role co-defendant in the murder of Laura Grillo.
We just needed really that one person to finally break and just confirm everything that the investigation had showed up to that point.
Jesus had a felony criminal history. He has multiple arrests. He has a lot of knowledge of dealing with police.
And James didn't have as close of a relationship with John that Jesus did. So we felt that James would be the weaker person in that type of a situation to cooperate with us and tell us what he knew about how Laura was killed.
Hey, James. Jim Arnold with the Rangers. How you doing?
James seemed to be very intrigued by the Texas Rangers. He really seemed to like dealing with the Rangers, like talking to the Rangers.
Well, I know that he dealt with some guys, but I'm a little bit different than them because really all I do is homicides. My conviction rate, my solvency rate, 100%.
You actually remind me of the legend of the Texas Rangers I heard about. With the old Wild West days.
Yeah.
They'll send all these marshals and sheriffs in there, and it took one Texas Ranger.
One Ranger, right? Okay.
Texas Rangers, they're a legend here in Texas. I think it made an influence on James in order to give more of the truth.
You know this young lady? Guess who she dated? Would it surprise you to know that this young lady told us that Jesus talked to her about how he was going to get paid to commit a murder. He was going to kill his boss's wife. You know this joker? He approaches him and offers him some money to drive a car so he can do what? Kill his boss's wife. So you think those two stories are legitimate?
I mean, that's a lot to make up.
He understands that now we know a little bit more than we did the last time we sat down.
You see, his arms are open. He's pretty relaxed. And that's a good posture to move in, to draw in more of the truth.
You don't have to get caught up in this deal. Why should you be worried? Because capital murder is an all-inclusive offense. It doesn't matter who pulled the trigger, right? Don't be part of it. Lay it out. Separate yourself. The only way that you can do that is be honest. There's an opportunity for that. The only way, I think, that you can stay out of this thing is to help yourself out. And it starts with truth. It's your decision. This is probably the most important moment of your life. Right? If you're not honest, nothing anyone can do for you.
Just give me a second.
I don't think this is your fault. I don't even think that you necessarily knew why you were driving in there. Did you know why you were driving in there?
Think
I don't think. I know the answer. You're not a killer. You're not a guy who plans murders. You're not a bad person. But good people say that they're sorry for the mistakes that they made. They make amends.
If you recognize the person, not just for the event of the criminal act, but for other things in their life, they feel that they've got some type of connection with you, that you're not judging them on one criminal act. In some witnesses, it can give them the comfort that they need in order for them to provide truthful information.
You're on the edge of the Grand Canyon, right? And what I'm going to ask you to do is take a leap of faith. And trust me. All right? You're my friend, right? I'm trying to be your friend. I want the best friend you have in the whole freaking world. Trying to get your pen and paper. So how's it kick off?
When Jesus first mentioned anything about this, I disregarded it. I thought it was just about smoke. He shows up in the morning and we get in the car and we go. The whole time, I'm still thinking he's even when he gets there. He does his thing. I heard nothing.
And when he gets back in the car, what does he say to you? I shot. That's what it said, yeah, shot. Is that how I did it, or? He shot her. In the head. Right. But it's pretty obvious that John ordered it. Yeah. And she never say how much John paid. He was boasting about something about 15 grand. But threatening and all, or just shut up, or saying, man, don't talk or else. I got that money from Jesus. What's he do? You never did. Where? At the gas station on the street. Put me some confidence, let's get in the car and I'll take. I don't know the street, but I can take you that way.
James did agree to get in the car and actually show us the route that he and Jesus drove from Dallas to Rowlett that morning. And James was able to show us several places that evidence was discarded.
Okay. What was it? It was like a container or something? It was in what? Black trash bag?
Once James finally did decide to tell us what he knew, we were able to take John into custody as well.
We entered through a garage where he was doing some work. He was taken to the ground and handcuffed. During the arrest, his glasses fell off. And the only thing he said is, "Can I get my glasses?" And he never said a word. He never spoke. We were instructed to drive him to the Dallas Sheriff's Office and turn him over to Ranger Holland.
Hey, come on. Have a seat.
This was a well-planned murder, and we needed to close this case. We needed John to confess.
I'm guessing you probably have about 50,000 questions right now. Wondering what's going on. Would I be right with that? There's a couple problems. What do you think? There's a couple problems. Let me explain to you. So, you know James Valeda, right?
I don't think he is, yes.
Okay, and you know Mr. Tremaine, right?
Yes, we came along several years.
Let me cut to the chase a little bit. Jesus is a dumbass, alright? At the end of the day, you shouldn't hire a dumbass to do the job because he's going to screw it up, alright? And if he doesn't screw it up, he's going to talk about it.
I didn't hire the dumbass, that's my problem.
Do what?
I did not hire the dumbass. I did not pay him the money, that's my problem. I don't love you. I tried to get married with her for at least 3 years. I love her, still love her.
There's not a question of if you did this or you didn't do that. I already know the answer to it. I already know that you hired him. You know this chick? She said that Jesus told her that you were going to pay Jesus $9,000 for killing your wife because you didn't want to get married and you wanted custody of the children. At this point, you're looking at a long time in prison, more than that. But this country is very interesting in that if people show remorse and they tell the truth, things tend to go better. I say this. I'm sorry.
Oh, I am sorry that my wife was killed. I cried so many times. I mean, you're telling me that, basically admitting that I hired him
to do the murder. That's what you're telling me. Am I telling you to admit that? No, I already know that you did that. I'm giving you an opportunity to tell the truth. I need to talk to attorney.
When Ranger Holland interviewed James, he was able to get his cooperation to the point that James agreed to testify against the other two defendants, which was very positive for our investigation. James says he drove Jesus to Rowlett to Laura Grello's house. Jesus entered the house. He shot her to death. And then they drove to the home improvement store in North Dallas and met up with John. And that John wanted Jesus to kill Laura before the wedding.
That wedding wasn't going to happen. It was all to cover up. There's a darkness to it.
And both John and Jesus were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. And because James did decide to cooperate in this investigation, he was allowed to plead guilty to a murder charge instead of capital murder, and he was sentenced to 25 years. I was glad we were able to hold the individuals responsible, accountable for what they did.
They took a lot away from a lot of people. They took a mother, a friend, a daughter. I'm just really glad that this case got solved and that they worked so hard for her, because anybody's worth it, but, Laura was worth it.
They had been planning this murder for months, and they believed that they had a plan that was going to work. Luckily, in this case, we got justice for Laura Grillo.
She's awesome, and she's strong, and she's like her mom. And Laura's always going to have a place in her heart. She's resilient. I'm really blessed to have her. Laura still lives on. She lives on through her daughter's smile and through me trying to be a better person every day because of her.
News 5 has been on the case of Taylor Wright.
The private investigator has been missing for more than a month.
The mother and former cop disappears without a trace.
We found the handgun that was missing around.
She knew how to cover her tracks.
She knew how to hide.
Is she a victim of foul play, or did she run away?
She would have never just left her son.
Someone is hiding the truth.
I don't know where she is.
Investigators searching for answers.
We keep pressing.
In the interrogation room.
I don't know.